Тот самый Дерек Чесора.
Тот самый, да.
Которому
Hello and welcome to a special edition of the Two Shot Factor. The greatest heavyweight boxer all time.
Who is it?
Ali moving in on London. A fuselage of punches by Muhammad Ali. London goes down.
Well, now, here's Ruddock with the left. Another left. Missed with the right. Stunned. And Ruddock. And back comes Tyson.
Nobody has ever done this to Kirk Johnson in 12 years as a pro.
You want to see a heavyweight destroyer? Vitaly Klitschko wants to be your man. He wants to be your man right now. Big right hand lands again. Johnson having trouble fighting back. Down goes Johnson. That's it.
These Africans, they gone, boss. Sucker, look at you. You out, sucker.
Been thinking about this story for quite a while. I have some notes. In fact, I should probably go get them and press pause. Mike Tyson, Vander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, Klitschko, Holyfield versus Tyson. If Tyson didn't go to prison, if Tyson had Kevin Rooney, if Tyson had Teddy Atlas, all these different factors. I still think Holyfield's a better boxer.
Oh, a straight right combination by Holyfield. Holyfield looking to air it out. Holyfield's unloading now. He's taking a shot. He's going for it. Oh, Tyson's in trouble.
There are a lot of great boxers that are coming through the 90s, some that we don't even remember. A lot of people forget about Riddick Bowe. I mean, Riddick Bowe beat Holyfield 2 out of 3 times, and arguably in the Fan-Man fight, that's part 2.
Evander Holyfield showing his warrior's heart.
Don't forget about a guy named Chris Bird, a southpaw. Chris Bird was tricky. A lot of guys didn't want to fight him. I'm showing Bird here more because of who's coming up next, just in case you're wondering. There was another guy, though, that was able to get by Chris Bird. And yes, Chris Bird did beat David Tua.
Slick straight right hand throw. For all those reasons, the low blow is a low blow. Real nice combination. Throw that
Ike Ibeabuchi. Ike Ibeabuchi was an unknown who all of a sudden appeared against David Tua.
Tua 27-0 with 23 knockouts. Ibeabuchi 16-0 with 12 knockouts. The one thing we do know about him, he's got a great body.
This Ike Ibeabuchi fought Tua early on. The announcers, they said after 1 or 2 rounds, yeah, this Tua guy, this Ibeabuchi, obviously you can't continue a work rate like this through a full fight. After 4 or 5 rounds, he keeps working.
Are you surprised by the work rate? It just seems like Ibeabuchi never stops working here.
It's almost like, if you didn't know better, you'd think you didn't know they were going the distance. They were going in a long fight, and he's busy. He's very busy, which is a great thing to see from a heavyweight.
Ibeabuchi really hasn't slowed at all.
And I also like the fact that he seems to have a good selection of punches. He uppercuts, he hooks to the body. He's got the right hand. He throws more uppercuts than the average guy, and he does a lot of different things in there.
Tua was the kind of guy that, pain was like some kind of voodoo thing to him. It just didn't enter his vocabulary. But, Ike Ibeabuchi, it didn't seem to bother him at all. It's like he could just stand there and trade punches. Nobody went up against Tua like that. You had to stay back and be evasive. And the punch counts were record-breaking by CompuBox standards for heavyweights for total punches thrown by one person. I found a Vitaly Klitschko fight against a German named Timo Hoffmann, and I counted, and the punches thrown by Klitschko are higher than that of Ike Ibeabuchi's, although it was not recorded on CompuBox officially. I had it somewhere in around 1,200 punches. Tua did come on late. He was winning later rounds, so he proved he can really. It's crazy. In some ways there are more exciting fights just based on the fact that you understand there's a bit more drama and surprise, and this was just a lot of back and forth, just hitting like these people couldn't even be hurt.
The thing that stands out about it today to me is the one thing that it lacked, and that was the drama of either guy being hurt. And that's really saying something when you consider the number of punches, particularly that Tua landed. He was credited with landing 282 punches. That should have told us what was going on with Ike. What kind of lunatic gets hit 282 times by David Tua and is still able to speak after 12 rounds?
You could read the comments and people are just amazed, who is this guy? Wow, I would have loved to see what could have happened. later on. So what did happen? Well, he fought Bird 3 fights later. After 2 fights, there was a mysterious incident.
The problem with the Ibeabuchi is he has 1 round of boxing in the last 14 months and 3 weeks.
This guy's crazy. He's going to hurt somebody. I don't want it to be me or you or anybody else, but he's quite capable of killing somebody.
Ibeabuchi nearly did just that 2 months after the Tua win, when he was arrested in Texas after kidnapping the teenage son of his girlfriend and badly injuring the boy by driving into a freeway overpass at a reported speed of 65 miles per hour.
He kidnapped the son to teach him a lesson because he was misbehaving or something, the girlfriend's son. He was from the west coast of Africa, Nigeria. Nigeria, that's right. And things are a little different there, right?
Originally from Nigeria, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome after a self-imposed exile, making his much-anticipated return to the ring right here tonight, the fighter known as the President, Ike Ibeabuchi.
Botcher added one of those too bizarre to make it up details. He said on the night of the fight, Ibeabuchi refused to get into the ring and fight Bird unless he had a Snickers bar. So one of the guys in his entourage had to hurry to the local convenience store and get him a Snickers.
Which can be very difficult to score, is that it shows graphically to the judges that one guy has been hurt with something.
Bird in serious trouble. Ibeabuchi with a monster left hook. Followed it up to the right, and Bird for the second time in his career goes down. Trying to argue with the referee, Ron Roll, about whether it was a knockdown, but come on, Chris, you got busted.
Oh boy, he's out of his. He's hurt very bad. He doesn't even know where he is right now. He's trying to keep it down.
And then he fought Bird and then disappeared. After Bird, though, he got some escort at a hotel in Vegas. She didn't want to perform the certain things he wanted to do, and he ended up locking her in some closet.
On July 22nd, 1999, it all came crashing down. Ibeabuchi was in Las Vegas, reportedly being courted by Don King, who was no stranger to trying to woo other promoters' fighters. According to Clark County Police Lieutenant Tom Monahan, hotel security at the Mirage Casino was called in the early morning hours after guests heard a commotion. Monahan soon arrived on the scene, and a 21-year-old quote-unquote entertainer called to Ibeabuchi's suite told the officer that the boxer had sexually assaulted her. Monahan reported that he found Ibeabuchi in his hotel bathroom with the door locked from the inside, and officers were unable to get him to surrender until they shot pepper spray under the door.
Ibeabuchi had, serious mental health issues, though. I mean, partly from being from a different part of the world and having a language barrier, I'm sure, but I don't know, man. There were stories. I mean, I listened to SoundCloud audio thing about him with different interviews and stuff. Some of this stuff I had heard, but some of this was crazy.
Mental illness is not an issue to be taken lightly, and certainly the point of this podcast is not to point a finger at a troubled man and mock him or diminish him. The point is to tell his story.
There was a paranoia there. I don't know what the clinical neurosis, the definition of it would be, but there was definitely a paranoia with Ike. If he went down the wrong path mentally, he was very untrustworthy of people, and some things would occasionally scare him.
Here's Lou DiBella sharing one of the most well-traveled stories about Ibeabuchi's paranoia.
I'll never forget, I was with Cedric, we were doing a boxing after dark, and Ibeabuchi's mother was staying at the hotel with him, and she said, Ike's not going to fight. She called Cedric's room. I happened to be there. Now, you're a television executive and you hear Ike's not going to fight, and you're sitting in the room, you get rather concerned. And he said, Ike's not going to fight. There's evil spirits in the hotel, and they're coming in through the air conditioning system. So, in typical Cedric Kushner fashion, he said, well, ma'am, turn off the air conditioning.
He was afraid to talk on the phone. There was always these deals with evil spirits, man. You wouldn't want this guy on your bad side, dude. I don't know. It's too bad that we couldn't have seen more of this guy. He was a guy that you want to see, but personality-wise, unfortunately, behind the scenes wasn't so great. Many boxing fans know about him, but there are a lot who probably never heard of this guy or don't know or never seen these fights. I mean, you need to know about this guy. If you're a boxing enthusiast or any fighting enthusiast, you need to know the legend of Ike Ibeabuchi. Because it is one, that's for sure. And it's a sad ending, really. Tua came on late in the fight, but it was too little too late.
His jab and his assortment of punches really stand out to me. He's impressive with that, but the jab is one of the better jabs I've seen.
I think that's really one of the things that's so impressive about a guy that we haven't seen a lot of, is his assortment of punches.
Right, I mean, he's fighting like a well-rounded professional. And just go show you also, I mean, there's guys out there you've never heard of before that are good fighters. You just wonder where they come from. Where are these guys?
It's a global sport.
It's unbelievable. You know, there's people think the undefeated guys or the famous guys are necessarily the best, the only good fighters out there. But there are guys out there. I was told when I was a kid, getting ready to turn pro, and one of my trainers told me something I never forgot. He said, there's guys out there you've never heard of that could beat you into the ground.
What about Herbie Hyde? There's a few English guys like, yeah, mate, I remember that bloke. He was quick, but he had a glass jaw. If only he had some kind of tolerance, he could have done something. Watch Herbie Hyde fight. He gave Riddick Bowe some trouble.
Start to let go with those heavy punches, but the right-hand counter was a good one from Herbie Hyde, and Bowe was shaken a little bit by that. Well, goodness me, look at the way Hyde's come back here. It crashes another right hand. This young man is totally unfazed by the assignment. That's terrific stuff from Herbie Hyde, because I thought Bowe had him going a little. And down goes Hyde. That surely was just a slip. No knockdown, no knockdown.
No knockdown, but he's definitely hurt from something.
He's hurt from something. Now, what was that? Hyde is suddenly all over the place.
He obviously got hit with something.
It was one of those phantom punches, and down he goes again. Well, this is mysterious.
Klitschko knocks him out in the second round.
Holyfield-type stature. Fast hands there. And he was away again before Klitschko could find an answer. He can be a bewildering. His way of boosting his confidence is very hard on him. Now Klitschko gets him with the right hand, and he's got Hyde down in the second round. First time he landed with it, that chopping right, and this could be problems for Herbie Hyde.
Tyson versus Lewis, I mean, Tyson was still a really good fighter then, but he was starting to lose it. And it was more the willpower than anything. The best example, though, is if you skip ahead 2 years to his fight against Danny Williams. Now, Danny Williams is crazy, dude. He was a good fighter. I want to say a great fighter.
These two titles won tonight. Somebody got the arm again, I think. The shoulder's gone. It's come out again. He can't fight. The corner, look on. He wants to get himself out of there. Surely his corner have realised this. Look at his arm. They're clapping him forward. Oh, he's got him! That's unbelievable! For Williams! And Potter is out! I don't know whether he's going to make it! That is astonishing!
Great boxer, but I mean, he was one of the biggest guys, maybe the biggest guy Tyson ever fought.
In a couple of fights back in England, Tyson digging to the body, left hook to the jaw. Another left hook upstairs, a left uppercut staggers Williams.
Danny Williams beat him in 2004. Now, Tyson was past his prime. Some people would say a long ways, but it's not necessarily as bad as you think.
Ich habe gesagt, ich kontrolliere seinen Puls und weiß, wie er in Form ist, und er ist in bestechender Form. Und das sieht gut aus im Moment. Ja, schon gewaltig, was der Junge wegstecken kann. Aber jetzt tobt er wie ein Baum.
I mean, it's deceptive in a lot of ways. The way he fights is crazy. And Williams said it himself. He said Tyson looks so fast and dangerous, and Klitschko looks so slow and robotic. Klitschko kept hitting me, and I couldn't hit him. Okay, my opinions on Prime Mike Tyson? Well, it's pretty simple. I think after Kevin Rooney left, I think you could point out some changes, but even it's not as bad as what people say. If you watch his fights against Razor Ruddock, you can see he is still slipping punches, bobbing his head, and going to the body. There isn't as big of a change as people say. It's pretty minor. The deal with prison, maybe so, but I can understand that, but I mean, I just think Holyfield's a better boxer, and I think if you go back in time, he still doesn't beat him. He's got the capabilities, it's not a guarantee, but I put my money on Holyfield. Why does no one ever bring up Mike Tyson versus Riddick Bowe?
Not to say Mike was scared of anything like that. I just think that he knows with me being a big guy, good left hand, I would have been in a lot of trouble for him.
Yeah, and he always struggled with the bigger guys who could kind of box.
Riddick Bowe arguably had all 3 fights against Holyfield. The decision was close. Some people say it should have been Bowe. I know Mike Tyson's a more explosive boxer, but there are reasons why Bowe wins that fight. How about Shannon Briggs versus Mike Tyson?
Let's go, champ! Let's go, champ!
I'd put my money on Tyson, but Briggs was a crazy dude, and it's no surprise he has the record for most first-round knockouts.
Is the most action that anybody's mounted against Lewis since Ray Mercer in '96, and there Briggs almost knocks the champion down. Shannon Briggs believing that he has hurt Lewis, and Lewis is wobbling.
I mean, we can go on all day with this. Mike Tyson was clearly a great, obviously, and probably the most explosive boxer of all time. There are a number of factors you gotta weigh in here. Like against Vladimir Klitschko, for example, I think Klitschko has the capabilities, but I'd put my money on Tyson because, you know, look at the comparabilities Klitschko made to Povetkin to Tyson.
Came to rock, came to shook, we hot. When will you niggas learn? Came to get crunk, came to bring life, came to get started, came to get right. Turn down the music, turn up.
A lot of people don't look at a lot of these European fighters that popped up in the absence of the American fighters from the 90s and the early 2000s. I mean, I want to make a separate video with that. I could go on all day about that kind of stuff. The change in boxing, MMA popping up and starting to succeed at that time. A lot of boxers going to football, huge contracts. I mean, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of business to this. Eastern European fighters, African fighters. On the other hand, though, Klitschko fought, I haven't even looked at the stats, I'm somewhere in the name of 5 or 6 southpaws, including the elusive Chris Bird, and won both times. Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, and Muhammad Ali fought, I'm pretty sure of this, a combined 1 southpaw, a guy named Mildenberg. Ali fought in the 60s in Germany. Simply put, Mitch Green, a retired gang member, lasted the distance against Mike Tyson and was in the fight the whole time. He wasn't winning, but he was exchanging blows. I mean, there were just guys who I'd put my money on. Guys like Bowe, Vitaly Klitschko, I'd probably put my money on. That Ibeabuchi guy.
He was a prodigy. I mean, he had amazing power. He had fierce determination, and he had no fear of anybody, and he believed that he was the king.
After the Tua fight, Ike changed completely. We always knew he had some problems, even before the Tua fight, but they were never that serious, and they were always kept quiet. But since then, Ike's been thinking he can do whatever he wants. His biggest problem is that he just doesn't obey the rules. He wants to break the law. A lot of times, I'll ride in the car with him, and he'll drive real fast. I'll tell him, slow down, this isn't Nigeria, we have different rules here, and you're going to get yourself a ticket.
I said, do you really want to be on ESPN one day as the promoter of the world heavyweight champion who murdered somebody?
Matchmaker Eric Botcher tells his version of an often told Ibeabuchi story that straddles the fence between humorous and troubling.
He refused to come to the weigh-in. And, you know, Billy Lyons, the commissioner, said if your guy doesn't get down here, he's not going to fight. So he refused to come out of his room. We have no idea why. He just wouldn't come out. So his trainer called him up and said, and it's like a comedy scene. He's like, I need to speak to the president. And Ike had answered the phone. He's the only one in his room. And Ike said, hold on a moment. And he puts the phone down like he's going to get the president. And Ike comes back onto the phone as the president. And the trainer explains that, you know, there's a staff meeting downstairs. We can't get started unless the president is there. We have many important things to discuss, but he has to approve everything. And Ike said, I'll be right down. That's how we got him to the weigh-in.
Kushner's people had trouble getting Ibeabuchi on a plane from Texas to Washington State because he told them, much like those air conditioning vents, there were demons and evil spirits on the airplanes. As Curtis Cokes told me in 1999, quote, Ike finally got a later flight that, I guess, didn't have demons on it.
Normally those interviews go half an hour. I remember looking down at my phone, and they dismissed Ike after 13 minutes because he wasn't saying anything. And when he walked out of the room, Jim Lampley looked at me and he goes, "That guy's flipping crazy."
I was actually having a lot of fun, but until I got hit with it turned out it looked like it was an uppercut, but he turned it into like a hook or something, and boom, I walked right into it. So I was like, oh my goodness. And he stopped the fight. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you stopping the fight? The bell rung. But I had my bell was still ringing. That's what was ringing was that bell.
Asking them, what was your sort of like, what was it like when you were growing up? Sort of normal questions. And the answers were not like effusive, you know what I mean? They were sort of short. And then I said, well, where are you living now? And then he picks up a steak knife, like literally, like into his hand, like you might thrust it into someone. And he plunges it into the table. And the knife is sticking out of the table. And he like looks me in the eye and he goes, "Why do you want to know where I live?" And I'm like, dude, Ike, I don't give a fuck where you live. Like, I'm not asking for your address.
He scared the bejesus out of me. The guy was so totally nuts that I knew that if he escaped punishment or if he served his time and then came back, that it would be really dangerous.
I learned just days before this podcast was posted that Ibeabuchi is currently in custody in Arizona due to multiple probation violations. Adam Carolla asked Bob Arum on his podcast what kind of money he thinks Ibeabuchi left on the table.
I don't know, but it was the heavyweight division, and people love a puncher. And while he probably couldn't have made what Mike Tyson made, but he would have been damn close.
Really?
Hundreds of millions of dollars.
Hundreds of millions of dollars.
But again, that's life. That's life. You have to be a person. You have to be sane.
I believed that this guy was going to be heavyweight champion. Like, I didn't have a doubt. You know what I mean? I would have bet that this guy would have been heavyweight champion. That's how positive I was. There's been a lot of wastes of talent in boxing, and I think that he may have been one of the greatest, because I actually think that he was given every tool to be heavyweight champion.
Tua left hook, Ike left hook of his own, and that's exactly what we've been detailing. He meets him punch for punch.
He answers him back every time. He takes all the play away.
Now they go swinging in the middle of the ring.
That's what they needed.
Look at this. Nice way to end it. Very, very active heavyweight fight. Both men deserve credit.